the mind doesn't work that way. You feel guilty. Why did I survive when a million other children died during that period? And that did makes a lot of people depressed, and it certainly did with me. And I had 6 years analysis to get me out of that. And of course, philanthropy is an antidote to that sort of depression. Nowadays, I'm sure you would agree, I'm very happy with this. I really am happy. I've fulfilled my life, and I so enjoy learning to give the money away wisely.
And what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur who wanted to be Steve Sherry?
Go for it and do something that you really enjoy, because all successful organisations are full of people having fun, and if you do that, great.
And you loved every minute, did you?
I really do, yes.
Stephanie Shirley, thank you very much indeed for being with us, and congratulations for being on the One Without Power list.
Thank you.
Still to come in today's programme, Baby Talk. How do you know when your child's speech is developing at the right rate, and what can you do to help? And the serial Good News. Now, each new French president chooses an image of Marianne, the symbol of the Republic, who will be on the stamps. She appears as a statue in every town hall and holds the red, white and blue together in the official government logo. Brigitte Bardot was Marianne in the late 60s, in 1985, and now President François Hollande has chosen the founder of the feminist group Femin, Ina Shevchenko. Like the original painted by Delacroix, she tends to sport bare breasts to make her point. But who was Marianne, and why has a woman become a symbol of liberty, equality and fraternity? Well, Dr. Maud Brack is a senior lecturer in modern European history at the University of Glasgow. Maud, what's the origin of Marianne?
Well, Marianne started to appear in images and iconography, but also in popular songs, for example, in France in the second half of the 18th century, in the revolutionary period. And then at some point, she really became the main image, or the main tool through which radical forces, the radical republican and the anti-monarchist forces, represented this new idea of republic, of revolution, but above all of liberty. Because above all, she was the symbol, and continues to be the symbol, of the liberty of the French people.
But why do you suppose a woman was chosen? Because, it was fraternity, not sisterliness, that was in the logo. And Olympe de Gouges wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Woman in absolute fury that women had not been included in the Declaration of the Rights of Men after the Revolution.
Yes, absolutely, and this is very interesting. So, of course, on the one hand, one could argue that the French Revolution actually did rather little for women and didn't grant them full citizenship. And yet, at the same time, it is a woman who represents this new republic, this new nation also. And there, a number of reasons could be pointed at as to why this is the case. On the one hand, I think there is the fact that modern nation states like France, but other ones as well, have had to include women on some level or to some degree because they needed or need the support of women. Those new modern nation states which claimed to be democratic and inclusive have had to include women to some degree and have had to gain the support of women to some degree. So that may go some way in explaining this. But I think also, on the other hand, an important element here is that the revolutionaries in France at the time, but also the Enlightenment, often referred to classical Greek and Roman mythology. And in classical mythology, liberty is or was very often represented as a woman, not only liberty, but also reason and justice, for example.
Headgear. She wears a sort of crown or a red cap.
Yes, she on the famous painting by Eugène Delacroix, for example, and in many of the other images of Marianne, she wears a what is called a Phrygian cap, which is a conically shaped cap, which was typical for typical headgear for revolutionaries in France at the time. So that also, the cap in itself represents the revolution.
How important did she become during World War II when France was invaded?
Yes, this is interesting because throughout French modern history, Marianne has continued to represent
proven otherwise. When did we...
City or town has and had.
The iconography has been based. How do you suppose Hollande decided to have the founder of Femin?
Well, as far as we know, there is a degree of unclarity here, but as far as we know, he didn't actually decide this. So what Hollande did was that he, quite explicitly, he said, I'm going to do this differently. So as you said earlier, every French president, or at least the last couple of French presidents, have presented and commissioned a new image of Marianne for postal stamps. So Hollande has done the same thing, but he's quite explicitly said, I'm going to do things differently. I want this new Marianne to be symbol of youth and of the future. And so for this reason, he has commissioned a number of artists to develop not one, but a number of new images for Marianne. And he has then, the way this has then been organized is that he has then asked lycéens, that is to say secondary school pupils around the country, to choose the best one, the one that they like best. So it is actually secondary school pupils who have chosen this particular image of Marianne.
And how has the bare-breasted founder of Femin gone down in France in general?
Well, this is of course hugely controversial, unsurprisingly one might say. So a huge controversy has erupted following the inauguration on the 14th of July by Hollande, or following the presentation by Hollande of this new image. So there's a huge controversy. Unsurprisingly, a number of Catholic, religious and conservative groups have very strongly opposed this new image of Marianne. The small Christian Democrat Party, for example, has called for a boycott of the new stamps, and has also called for the resignation of Hollande for this reason, which is of course not happening. But a number of other groups, also mostly conservative and nationalist groups, have spoken out very strongly against this, for two reasons, for a number of reasons. Well, I think the two most important ones, being that she is not French, of course, but also, of course, that she is a radical feminist, or at least that she presents herself as a radical feminist, and as you said earlier, that the trademark, so to speak, of the actions by Femin, by her group, are, or very often involve, bare-breasted appearances.
Well, Dr. Maud Brack, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, everybody's been talking babies this week, and I'm sure Wills and Kate are chattering away this morning to their as yet unnamed son. But at what point do parents generally know their child's speech is developing in the way it should, and what can you do to help? Well, first they babble, then they talk gibberish, and then rather irritatingly for the average devoted mother, it's Dad who tends to be named first. Well, Nicola Levy is a speech therapist and one of the authors of Small Talk. Nicola, that was a clip from a very famous YouTube video of twin boys who appear to be talking gibberish to each other. They use lots of gestures, intonation, and they take turns. Are they actually communicating with each other? Do they understand each other?
Absolutely. Well, the communication starts from birth, so by the age, I think those two little ones are about one perhaps, and by then they've learned so much about how people communicate with each other. As you say, they're doing the most fabulous intonation patterns, they're listening to each other, waiting for each other, knowing when to take their turn in the conversation. They're using what we call continuous babble sounds, da 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 da, and then from that